Good morning, children. How are you all? I hope all of you are keeping well. Students, in today's video class, we shall study the second part of the story. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. But first of all, let us recap what we have covered up in the previous video. Students, as we know, the narrator, a 37-year-old businessman, along with his wife Mary, 6-year-old son Jonathan, and 7-year-old daughter Suzanne, set sail from Plymouth, England. And students, they had a boat named Wave Walker. So, students, the first part of their journey passed pleasantly, but later weather changed for the worse. Though they attached lifelines, put on waterproof clothes, and life jackets, but all in vain, students, because the huge waves damaged the deck. The narrator was sinking below the waves and was critically injured. The wave walker also was about to turn over in water, and subsequent waves threw her upright and the narrator around the deck like a rag doll, like a doll of clothes. So later, student, with the help of two crewmen, Larry Vigil and Siegler, and using an electric pump, students, they were able to pump out some water throughout the night. Student Suzanne also got injured and she was having her head swollen. So, student, now let us see what is there in this part. Students, on the morning of January 3, the pumps had reduced the amount of water on board. Each of them now were taking rest for 2 hours, ton by ton. And now, students, they had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit the wave walker. But she was not strong enough to take them to Australia. What was not strong enough? The wave walker, their boat. So, students, the narrator checked the charts, calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. So, students, he hoped to reach Ile Amsterdam, a French scientific base. So, what happened was, students, on January 4, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, students, they reached now the last few centimeters of water only in the boat. Now, students, they had to keep pace with the water which was still coming in. So, students, Mary found some corned beef, and cracker biscuits. And students, they ate their first meal in almost 2 days. And student, but their relief was short-lived. Do you know what happened? At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up. And students, within an hour only, what happened? The wind was back to 40 knots. And the seas were getting higher, means the waves were getting higher in seawater. And students, throughout the night, the weather became worse. And do you know what happened? By dawn on January 5, students, their situation was extremely dangerous. The narrator went in to comfort the children, John, Jonathan. Then Jonathan said, Papa, we are not afraid of dying if we can all be together, which is the very dialogue of which is the very title of the chapter also, students. So the narrator could find no words to respond. He got very emotional. He was very spellbound. He got very emotional. So he determined to fight the sea. So, students, to protect the weak starboard sides, he decided what? That he decided, students, to stop the ship with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves, students. And he used an impoverished sea anchor, students, of this heavy nylon rope and of this 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. He used an impoverished sea anchor of heavy nylon rope, and student, what else did he use? Two 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. And now, students, more water rushed in through now the broken planks in the evening. This happened. And on the morning of 6th January, do you know what happened? The wind became less severe now. And what happened? The narrator got a reading on the sextant. And on the reading, so he made what? Quick calculations, students. She came in, who? Suzanne, and gave him a card. And what? Suzanne came in and just gave a card to him. And this card was made by her only. Student Suzanne had drawn caricatures of Mary and the narrator. It also had a message. The card which she made had a message expressing love and thanks. And then what happened at 2 p.m.? Do you know, student, what happened? After calculations, after checking all these calculations, the narrator asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. And students, he could then expect to see an island at about 5 p.m. And then he went below, climbed on his bunk, and he dozed off. He slept and he woke up at what time? At 6 p.m. And then what happened? John entered and asked. What? Jonathan asked. What? Jonathan said to him. Jonathan entered and asked if he could embrace his daddy. Suzanne was right behind him. They called him the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain. And students, they informed him that they had found the island. Fortunately, they found the island. Now the narrator rushed on deck and he saw the outline of the island of Ile Amsterdam. Right. And then what happened? This island was looking like a battleship. So the narrator rushed on the deck and just he wanted to see a view of Ile Amsterdam. And a student that night they anchored offshore right? And then the next morning, all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered them, and what happened? Helped them ashore. The next morning, all these 28 inhabitants, students, helped them in coming on the island. And after reaching the land, student, the narrator thought, what? Narrator thought of some people. First of all, narrator thought of Larry and Herbie. They had been cheerful under direst stress. And then he thought about what? Mary. Mary had stayed at the wheel for those crucial hours. And then, student, he thought of his 7-year-old girl, Suzanne, who did not want them to worry about her head and injury. And then, students, he thought of his son, his 6-year-old boy son, who was not afraid to die. Student. So, student, the story explained how one must react in the direst stressed of situation. And student, it teaches us that we must never lose hope and try to find solutions and stay positive in the face of adversity. Thank you, students.